or we have questions about this. These are meant to be discussions. Going forward, you'll have a set of videos to watch, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So you'll watch the video, and I think everyone decided to do it together. Or I talked with Ali, and that was kind of what we were thinking would be best, so you guys could talk about it. And then here, when you get here, we'll talk about those videos, but we'll also be in discussion mode. So, this is co-created. Ask us for what you need. We are absolutely here to help answer questions, or if you just have, you want to call us up and talk over your top 5, or say, hey, I want to know a little more about that concept. We enjoy that. That's kind of why we do this. So don't hesitate to reach out at any point. It helps us, deliver more directed and more coherent content. And also, along those lines, please feel free to accept, reject, or adapt anything you hear. So we are not trying to be hardline with this information. We feel like if it fits, great. If it doesn't, just don't, let it just go by, or adapt it to meet your needs. That's super important to us. We do not want you to feel like, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. And we are I'm still going to keep us off screen for just a touch, but I do want to ask a question. Has everybody, I know somebody in the room hasn't taken their top 5 yet. I know you will soon. But everyone else, have you seen your top 5 diagrams? Are you pretty familiar with the reports and stuff? Okay. I will be sending a few more reports that you may not already have. That'll be part of like the to-dos for next time, which is next week, and then we have a long break. So why are we here? I know that Ali and Nicole and Adam and I talked beforehand, and thought this would be kind of a fun experience. And really, this is just about really strengthening your already strong culture. And so the content is really around creating a strength-based culture. And, that's why we're in this room right now together. And our outcomes, we want you to experience greater individual environment fit, which just means that you're really happy and engaged and enjoying your work experience, your team. We also hope that this, flows over into your personal life. We don't really see a distinction. We believe that the professional is absolutely foundational. And so I hope that you'll see that you can apply this across the board. And also within that individual environment fit is the sense that you're building your relationships with each other, and the strength of your culture improves because of that. I think that's one of the things that, is so critical, and we'll actually talk about how critical a culture is. It's like the people, especially in any organization, but especially in yours, it's like, what do smaller groups have that some larger ones do not? And it is that cohesion. And, if you can really channel it to an even stronger culture and have some tools to help build that strength-based culture, the sky's the limit, really. So we want to, share what we've learned about that and what we've seen happen with other groups. So just give you, I know I'm talking a lot, we're about to get into more discussion, but I want you to kind of know like what we're doing. So what we're going to be doing is using, we are Talent to Strength. We have reports and materials and content and a methodology for how to apply this material. You took the top 5, you may or may not have immediately connected with it. But what we would like you to do is like, here is a way you can apply it and make it useful for yourself and your relationships. We'll be providing you the tools and resources for that along those lines. We use the Strengths Finder because we feel like it's a really solid tool to kind of accelerate a way into the content and make it unique and personalized. So far, we haven't found a better tool. And it's also fun, it's positive. So we absolutely want that. But it is just a piece of the puzzle. Strength Finder on its own is useful, but it has a very specific scope, and you plug it into a methodology, and hopefully it becomes a lot more personal and useful to you. So I'm going to do a quick introduction, And then I would like to meet you all. So I've met some of you, but not very many yet. So I'm gonna do a quick share. So here are screen. Okay, so here is Adam's top 5 and my top 5, and you will see that we present and we interact with people with these themes. So that is something, if you're like, this is not matching because it's just like a lot of words or whatever, let us know, because we can continue to learn from that and adapt. So I'll just introduce myself with the questions I'm going to have you all answer very soon. I'm also from Oklahoma originally, so you all is still in my vocabulary. I live in Maryland now. So the first question I want you all to answer is, when did you last sing to yourself and to someone else? So actually this morning, I sang to myself and my pets. I have a cat and a dog, and I'm always like making up goofy songs to entertain them and myself. And I think the last time I sang to someone else was karaoke in a strange little place in the Pocono Mountains, and it was The Doors, People Are Strange. So it's quite an experience.
You're not asking us to sing though, right?
Oh no, I mean, if you want to break into song, I'm not going to complain. But I'm not asking you to sing.
You haven't heard me sing, so.
So then the other questions I'd like you to cover: what came out of reading your top 5 results? So when you first took that test, what was your experience like? And I'll tell you, for me, I took this test years ago at Adam's prompting. He's like, you got to take this assessment. We talked over the results. I'm like, yeah, cool. That does sound like me. I didn't even know some of mine were a thing, like an election. I'm like, that's a thing, and other people don't think this way, and now I know why, and it was cool, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I just tucked it in a book and stashed it away. And it wasn't until actually I was doing some work with Adam, and he's like, I really want to build on this content. I think there's something there. Pull it back out. Let's talk it over. And then that's when it clicked for me. That's when I was like, okay, there's a lot here. And actually, I credit that experience of learning why it mattered and developing the content around what to do with that material. I actually think it's pretty life-changing for me. I stopped doing some things that were perpetually frustrating. I started doing more of stuff that made me thrive and enjoyed it. And I knew how to do that in a very deliberate way. And I would say, actually, there wasn't a space that didn't click for me, except maybe just not knowing, what to do with it initially. And so I'm like, okay. And I already kind of covered the application. And I would love to know what you personally hope to get out of this course. So I am going to let Adam do his quick introduction, and then we're just going to go around the room.
Oh gosh, I think the last song I sang had very bad lyrics to it, because it's a rap song. And I was basically doing it at Coachella, so it was pretty well received. You might have seen it. I don't know. Let's see. I think Felina's experience really mirrors mine. So I don't want to go. I want to get to you all. I want to hear from you all. But it was very similar. I took a lot of assessments over the years. I'm certified in several, but this one really had an impact after I learned to understand it. We've all taken assessments where we're like, oh yeah, which Harry Potter character are you, or whatever. And some make meaning and some have meaning and others don't. This one, when you understand how it works, has very, very deep, penetrating insights, to the point where I feel I'm flying blind if I don't know someone else's themes. So, and of course, it's become a major focus for me professionally. I do it in all the work I do, everything I do. Even my personal life, I give everybody StrengthsFinder. So it's really been all-encompassing. And I'm not expecting you all to be like that. But if you do become like that, who's like that?
All right, so let's go around the room. I took it off screen share. Basically, it was, when did you sing to yourself, and when did you sing to someone else last? And then generally your experience around the StrengthsFinder, what clicked, what didn't, has it, had an application in your life. I'll put that back up if it feels like we're missing it, but I would like to see you.
Okay, I'll go first. So I last time I sang for someone else would be for Sunday in church, and then sang to myself would be like about a week ago. And right now in my head, I have You're Welcome stuck in my head from Moana. And then what it meant to me, so when Adam first did the StrengthsFinder analysis and was presenting it to Natalie and Allie and myself, I thought he was like some kind of crazy mind reader, because he was like totally described me in a way that I hadn't ever heard before. It was really accurate. I don't think maybe more Allie things. And I think over time, like I've reflected on it a lot with other people I work with. I mean, all the people in my family take it, and I'm starting to realize kind of like how my strengths manifest themselves, and sometimes where they hold me back. And like my husband said that like listening is in my top 5, and he was like, "You're a terrible listener at home," and I was like, "I really am. I don't know why that's in there." And then I realized, like in the workplace, like for clients, I can be a really great listener. In my personal relationships, not so much. And because of my personal relationships, my harmony and achiever takes over, and I just want to fix things and move on. So anyway, I'm not just like taking it for face value anymore. I guess I'm like starting to get to the point where I'm wanting to dig deeper with them.
And can you do me a favor and say your name? Nicole? Okay, I thought so. That's very cool. Yep, might as well just go.
What are the questions again? I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. When did you last sing to yourself? And then when did you last sing to others, someone else? And then basically, what was your experience with taking this and what you'd like to get out of the course?
I sang Brittany to myself this morning on the way over. And I sang to my little boy last night, Sound of Music, which was beautiful. I'll gift you guys with that later. My first reaction after I love personality quiz, so I like taking StrengthsFinder, and turns out I am just as emotional as I thought I was. So yeah, I think you learn a lot about yourself a little more in depth, and I like that it's not like hard skills. You're a good writer. You're a good, you're great with details. It's a little more intuitive and kind of figure out how your brain is wired.
Excellent. And can you tell me your name, please?
I'm sorry, my name is Allie Lytle.
I'm sorry, that cut out.
That's Allie.
Allie. Okay, hi, Allie.
Hi.
I'm Maria, and I think I sing to myself all the time, so I don't know, like, I just like to sing, and then I sing to my husband all the time. So, like, I think this weekend, a song came on the radio and I started singing it. So, like, I don't know if that counts. And then what I learned from it is taking, like Allie, I love taking personality tests. My dad was a psychologist, so I'm, like, really big into that stuff. But I feel like the StrengthsFinder has done a better job than most, because I feel like it what Nicole said, it defines you in a way that you've never been defined before. And so I think that's what's really great. And it helps you understand yourself better. So, like, I knew all these things about me, but I didn't know how to define them. So I think now I'm learning how to define them. You understand yourself a little better, but it definitely hit the nail on the head for me. So, but it helps, I think, with introspection a little bit better, is that when you know who you are, you know why you're thinking the things the way you're thinking, and the way you act, and the way you approach situations, the way you approach situations. So I think it makes you a little bit more self-aware, which I think is something that people don't necessarily in the world that we're in aren't necessarily focusing on, but becoming self-aware is a big trait to have. So that's what I like about it, is becoming more self-aware.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Bailey. Last time I sang to myself was this morning in the shower. Last time I sang to someone else was probably yesterday. I sing all the time to my boyfriend, so that's fun. I feel like the Strengths Finder for me was kind of like an aha moment. It really kind of explained, it helped me learn myself better and why I do things and the way I do things. And what I really liked about this is that it's helped me understand everyone else and how they do things so I can better work with other people. Because if we kind of mesh the way we do things, it makes life easier. So
I'm Andrea. Last time I sang to myself was this morning. Last time I sang to someone else was sometime this weekend. I sang with my brother in the car. What I liked about it, I guess kind of like adding what they both just said, really getting to know my thought process a little bit more. I always knew that I was a very emotional person, but I just never really understood why. So kind of learning the different ways and how to apply those, but also learning more how to deal with conflict. So understanding, yes, I'm in a conflict and it's bugging me, but understanding why. So I'm a very empathetic person and I realize that's why I don't do well with conflict. I feel other people. So just learning how to navigate that.
Great.
I'm Lacey. I can't sing, so I don't really sing to other people. But the last time I sang to myself, you'll laugh about this, was playing guitar. I've been working on writing a blog post, which is really hard for me to do, and I felt really awesome about sending it off this morning. So I was jamming to Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song on the way to work. And totally singing to myself. So props to my dad for bringing me up on that. I think taking the Strengths Finder and seeing the results for me, echoing what everyone else is saying about it, kind of brings a self-awareness to why you react the way you do, or what motivates you, or what challenges you. But for me, it was validation. I think on some of the things that people have told me, oh, you're to this, or you're to this, or why do you do this, or why do you do that? It was validation for me that some of these things are the way I am, and what contributes to my strengths in both personal and professional environment. So I would say validating.
Wonderful.
Hi, Belinda and Adam. Okay, so the last time I sang was yesterday to my daughter, and I sang Hamilton, and she sang it back to me. And then I sang to myself yesterday to Hamilton. And then let's see. Okay, I'll be honest. I never take these kind of things. I never take personality quizzes or whatever. I, in general, don't believe in them. I always think they're kind of rigged.
It sounds like you might have. It sounds like you might have analytical in your top 5.
But so I the only 2 I ever remember about this is that I have input and context, because I'll catch myself doing a lot of context. I'm like, oh yeah, my Strengths Finder said that I do that. But and other than the fact that I'm all one color, like I forgot I have these other things. I'm just now seeing them. Is this an order, like the things that I have the most?
Yes, and I have all the same color that you do.
Okay, so I would have thought that context would be first, but I do remember input because I'm like a hoarder. So I'm like a knowledge hoarder, and I'll save things, clips and URLs and whatnot. So I believe in that one for sure. And then I think that after I took this, the experience I was like, oh, this was really interesting. And I went home to my husband, and he was like, that's not you at all. So I know what that means, because I was like, okay. Then I went back to work, and everyone was like, that's totally you. So I take that as to me, I think that means that like this might be on the right track, but maybe not. I don't know. And then the other thing is like I remember distinctively being surprised that I didn't have empathy on mine, because because I feel like, you know, as an observer, like to figure out how would if I was in the audience that my client is trying to advertise to, how would I behave and what would I think? And I think that that's what makes me good at like figuring out audiences for ads and those kind of things. And maybe just getting in the mindset of how to get into a strategy. So I just remember being surprised that I didn't have empathy on my top 5. But I do like this whole premise of the top 5s, and I do like I'm loving looking at everybody's right now. So that's interesting.
I love that you told me a story the other day, and you were like, I'm going to tell you what happened, but I'm going to start with the end result is this.
Yeah. Context.
Well, where does that part come from? The whole time I was like waiting for it.
Yeah. So like context for sure. Like I definitely notice myself like giving context all the time. And I don't think that, I think in the past before I took this test, I thought that I was more of like a storyteller. I was like, oh, I'm just a storyteller. You know, like I have to tell you the whole story before I get to the punchline. But maybe it's that I just need, like I need context. And so I'm giving everybody else context because I feel like that's something I need to. Actually, Nicole brought up a line item in our team meeting today because I needed some context to be able to give the vendors, like I needed like to understand something about the way we do. So she was nice enough to bring it up in a meeting. So I definitely believe in my theme 4.
I love it. We will definitely be talking about some of those things you've addressed, and I'd like to say too, one of the best things about this is when you see somebody else's, you can shift your communication style in such a way that it supports the other person and actually just streamline some stuff. It's really fun to experience. I think I really want that for you guys. I think you already have it naturally, which is key. And just the more you know about this, the more sort of nuanced you can become. But yeah, we're going to talk about some of those things.
So there's one more of us. I'm Jen.
I know. Though. I think 3. Well, I think 2, but I don't.
Yeah. It's my fault. I'll give you your quiz. This is my.
So I'm staying back so you don't see my head. I was born with a large head. So my name is Jen, and I sang to my kids, and they sing back. So 2 for is what we got this morning, and we were singing The Greatest Showman. So that's like our jam right now. You know, all of my faves. So I am with Natalie. I don't take quizzes. I did one when I graduated high school because when I was going to college and I met with the guidance counselor there, I wanted to do like 500 things. So I realized that wasn't an option, and you had to like go to said school of learning. So that helped, and that was interesting. I have not really looked at this ever again, to be honest with you, but I remember after I took it, I really liked it more for learning about other people. I was with Natalie also, where I thought I'd be empathetic number 1, because like empathy honestly rules my life. Like I don't sleep at night because I'm like strategizing and helping others, and I'm also pride myself on like fixing things. Like my biggest pet peeve is when people say, I just don't think there's anything left to do. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's always something. I mean, hotline, anything. Like there's a lot. So anyways, but I am excited to revisit this again, especially since I don't remember it. And like I said, the biggest thing I want, it's always good to improve myself. I'm a big believer in that. So obviously that means I believe in this. And then second, obviously, is to keep learning about my coworkers and assisting them in the best way possible. So that's it.
Wonderful. I think we have 2 more on the other side. I
am Caroline. I'm the intern, but I haven't taken the quiz. But I think the last time I sang to myself was yesterday in the car, and the last time I sang to someone else, I also sang to my pets. They really like it. And so my sister and we sing to our dogs quite a bit. So we did this weekend.
I love it.
Yeah, it's my fault you didn't get the quiz. You'll get that as soon as we're done with it. Sorry.
Okay, we'll update your team grid too.
I'm Christy, and I don't really sing a whole lot because I don't know any words, but I hum all the time. I continually hum all the time, and I don't even realize I'm humming. So
And after it's been through everybody, I think they've all pretty much answered everything, and I feel the same. What I thought was interesting is sometimes I get hooked on there's one way to do something, and seeing everybody else's strengths just shows me that there are a lot of different ways to do things, and it's nice to know how other people are accomplishing something and getting a result and how we can work together.
That's awesome. Thank you all so much for that. Adam, do you want to say anything before I jump back in?
Yeah, first of all, I think that's just interesting. A question. We've never started a discussion with the question, when was the last time you sang to yourself or somebody else? So that was an experiment that Felinda just threw in there, and I think it was really interesting to hear. I didn't know singing was such a part of people's lives. And then I want to just say something about the context overall, and I'll just say this is true in my life where I have relationships, and there's always things that could be better, but we don't talk about them, and we're hesitant to bring it up, and really we make it a lot more difficult than it needs to be. You know, we don't know how the other person's going to react when we're trying to just try to problem solve. And that's how I see it, as problem solving. And I'll just give you a little example. This happened yesterday. Some of you know I do work with YPI, and I work very closely with a woman named Terry Shipley. We've been working together for years. And she asked me, hey, I want to have a schedule a venue for a meeting with the students. Do you have any thoughts on the venue, where it should be? And I'm not a venue guy. I don't even leave my house if I don't have to. But I answered anyway. I'm like, we could do it here, or we could do it here. I wanted to be helpful. And basically what she finally said is, Adam, she said, I want to do it here, and at this place, and I just need you to say yes. You know? And I'm like, oh, yes. You know, like, I don't care. I'm glad to not comment on venues because I don't know. I was just trying to be helpful. And then I said, you know, Terry, I want you to feel free anytime you just want me to say yes. Just say it like that, you know, and we're like 5 or 6 years into working together, and we get along marvelously well. But it was little things like that she was like, well, I know there's some things you feel strongly about, and she was being deferential to me, and that's why she would ask questions and not just say, Adam, I need you to say yes. So the short of it is, what I'm trying to get to is, there's always little things that if you talk about it, it's like it's not a big deal. Like, honestly, like, if there's something I feel strongly about, I will bring it up. I don't need her to dance around it and talk around it. And just like one little example I've learned recently, some people are very circular communicators, and some people are very direct communicators, right? And like, as I'm saying that, you can even say to yourself, am I more of a circular person where I want to warm somebody up and I want to get the mood right before I say what I really want to say? And some people are like, I don't care about any of that. I'm just going to say what I want to say, and then we'll just deal with it. And it's like little differences like that. If you could just sort them out, then the problems just disappear, because basically I know that when I look at you all, I'm looking at a room full of good people. Nobody in there is evil. Nobody in there is like trying to do harm to anybody. And this is true like with most groups. I mean, sometimes there's evil, like sometimes there just is. But most of the time it's just we have different styles and preferences. We pay attention to totally different things. We read the world through very different lenses. I don't know why these are my gestures, but you know? And so if we can just be able to talk about them and work through it, then life just becomes better, and you just enjoy the people you work with. You enjoy the work you do more. And I know you guys already do enjoy your work and each other, but more, like having more of it. That's what we're going for. That's kind of my thought of the general idea for this. So that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, this is also the business that you all are in, is, you know, this is the behavior of people and kind of those sometimes very intangible qualities, the social science aspect of, you know, and so you all understand this in this room. But I think what, you know, the stakes are, you know, what does it matter? Like, if we already do it well, why should we invest in trying to make it better? Well, I do want to share a specific study with you all that might kind of help put it in perspective. And this study was conducted in 1992 by Harvard, two professors named John Cotter and Jim Haskett. and they studied some culture over 11 years. And so they, it's very hard to measure people. So what they did is measured profit. And I think profit is a direct result of it's just an indicator. It is not the goal. It can't be the goal, because if profit's your goal, it's not going to work. But it is an indicator of the culture. And I think you'll see what I mean when you hear the statistics. So over those 11 years, the results were basically this: a strong, distinctive culture where they were concentrated on their customers, the associates, the managers. I mean, I'm talking internal and external. It was strong for both the way they worked together and the way they worked with their clients. Those groups showed a 756% increase in profits, where the ones that did not have that or did not value that showed a 1% increase. And that's the difference in the level of power that, kind of harnessing these interpersonal resources, not just for the ease and happiness and engagement is so primary, but that's what causes the level of engagement to rise. And so it's sometimes, I think, dismissed a little bit of because they're intangible, because they're hard to define, they do get dismissed in favor of, these hard numbers. But here we see where a hard number really shows just how crucial the people are. And so that's why we think it's, one of the reasons we think it's important to invest the time. It's not just resources, and time is a resource, but doing that, I think, will just kind of, you're already powerful. I think it'll make you even more powerful. So I do want to give you a little bit of how to get more familiar with your results. I'll say off the bat, there are 34 themes. And those are clusters of talent. So they do not, if you hear the word learner, that's describing a bigger pool of talents. Don't get too worried about that, but don't get too stuck on I don't have something, because you actually do. We only see the top 5, but we all have all 34. It's just a statistical order. So, yes, my bottom one is deliberative. I have unlocked my 34, which I don't really recommend right away, because we're too focused on weakness fixing, and we're going to try to talk to you as we go about why that isn't useful. So your top 5 are your lead horses. You want to get familiar with them. And here are some ways to do that. So you're going to review your top 5 diagrams. You're going to review your signature themes report and your theme anatomy. I'm going to be sending all of this to Allie after our call, and she'll distribute it out. We're going to you do a worksheet which will help you sort of connect your daily activities to these themes and kind of get just a little more familiar with that. When you took the top 5, there are a bunch of resources right on Gallup's website. So should you feel inclined and have more time, just dig into those. The signature themes report is one. We think it's really important, so we're going to provide that one to you directly. It's important to do things like underline what resonates with you, but the most important thing is talk to other people about your results, because you might get one conversation from your partner and a different conversation from your coworkers, and sort of wrestling with, well, why is that? And you'll share something, hey, this is the way I communicate, and it's out of strategic, I think. What do you see? Well, your coworkers work with you. They know exactly these patterns, sometimes better than you do. And so that conversation is invaluable. So that's something I'd like you to do. Study this team report and look at what's in the group. What are our top 5s really showing? When you go in to talk to somebody, if you have a meeting, I challenge you that over the next week, just take a look at that person's top 5 before you go in, and maybe even start the conversation around it before you get into the business when it's appropriate. So getting comfortable with these is the beginning. And I think you'll just start to see some patterns emerge. Patterns can be in behaviors. It can be in thought patterns. It can be in emotional reactions, like feelings. The theme anatomy report is going to help kind of show that to you, which we will be talking about even more. So actually, I'm going to skip over something that I will come back to in favor of just giving you an example of the worksheet that you're going to be doing. So I'm going to do a quick screen share. I want you to see what it is and why we want you to do it, because otherwise it's not going to have enough of a... can you see my my screen?
Yep.
Could you just go ahead and do like the full screen thing, presentation mode? I think that'll just...
Think so? Better?
Yes.
Okay. So, so the contrast and alignment meter. So we really, this meter, this model, some of you have already seen. If you did the training with Adam, you've already seen this model. Basically, alignment means when you are on, when you are thriving, when you're feeling strong, or you're feeling right in the moment, something you're doing is energizing you. It's not just energizing you, it's making you want to do more and more of it. Time disappears. You're strongly committed to continuing it. If you could do it all day, you would. That's thriving. And then, you know, there's content, where it's like, okay, I'm happy, but, you know, not all my boxes are checked, but I'm happy here. I could do this all day, but you can hear that like the energy will drop a little. Bearable, it drops even more. I have to do this. I'll just push through it, that kind of thing. Suffering is when it is just bumping up against some stuff that you can't get around. So you feel weak, you feel inauthentic, you don't feel like this is you at all, you feel frustrated, usually drained, like your batteries are just woo, back to zero. You're not committed to staying and you're going to try to get out of it as quickly as possible. That's contrast. So alignment is when you're like all the way on, and contrast at zero is when you're really feeling like you got to do something else, and you're looking for the exit, basically. So this is a more complex model that I think will save some of the details. If you get that concept, you can do the worksheet.
Well, I want to stop real quick. I want to see your guys' reaction to this, if you can relate to these different phases or stages. Can you put it back up again? Just to see what you guys, see if you guys have any reactions to that, if you could relate to these stages.
I mean, I can for sure. Yeah. I feel like I've been on one extreme or the other. You don't feel like this very often, like in the middle.
Yeah.
I consistently, I don't feel like I've ever been on either extreme. That's
You don't ever feel like you're just like in this zone where you're like, I'm having a blast. I don't even notice time passing. I would love to do this more often if I had my choice.
like not like in anything in life. I've never been that enthusiastic about like anything else.
Yeah, it's really,
That's different. That's not like a task. Like I'm not like, wow, I've been doing laundry for 4 hours and I can't believe it's been, or you know what I mean? It's zoomed by.
Yeah,
Like,
if we're gonna talk about laundry, let's go ahead and
like,
go all the way.
I'm
to
like content.
contrast.
I'm content where like it's bearable, but I also don't feel like I've ever been like, oh my gosh, like big suffering. Like I don't think I've ever really felt that.
Is this supposed to be a work or a life?
It's moment to moment. Every moment, our little meter, our little dial is somewhere on this list. Like right now, you might be, suffering. You might be like, shut this guy up. Then there's other times where, you might be elsewhere. It's going to bounce around based on situations. You're working with a client that you really like working with, and you love the project. You're going to be up around here, around 75. But then you might be working with another client where it's very unsatisfying, and you feel like the project's not very interesting, and you have to power through. And you're over here. Anyway, I think too there might have been a spill. I can't see that well, but
It was me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, this is a good sign, you guys. I'll just say
It was a
that
exercise. We all jumped in.
that's a sign of a strong culture. So I think that's something really cool that you should mark, is that was instinctual behavior to, jump up and help. And that is absolutely a sign. So it's kind of cool.
I think
Well, I think what's interesting for me looking at that is that there's really only two things on the contrast side that make me contrast. Like some of those things, even if I'm feeling those things, I can still be on fully alignment. So that's what I find interesting is that like if I'm, if I have anxiety, I'm actually thriving. Where I don't thrive is when I'm frustrated or I'm bored. And so I think that's what's weird is that there's emotions that are on the contrast that actually motivate me. And I can still be joy, gratitude, serenity. And I think for me, it might be, I don't know if it's accomplishing something with having those feelings that's driving that joy or gratitude or thriving. But that, to me, looking at that, I don't associate some of those emotions with not being with suffering.
I think that'll be really interesting then how you feel after you filled out this worksheet. And I'll give you a personal example. So I'm a writer, and I was like, I'm going to do this worksheet, we're developing it. I want to see if it works. And I was working on, writing. I love to do it. Often, there are bearable emotions, there are content emotions, there are thriving emotions in that experience, but it's something that I love to do. And I realized as I went to fill out my worksheet, I was like, I was suffering during that writing session. Why? Like, I don't usually. What was it? Well, at that time, I lived in an apartment, and the neighbor just happened to be playing like some really loud, really kind of jarring music, which I don't even always mind. But it was interrupting my concentration. And so it was like this very weird thing where I was, the activity was something that I typically enjoy, but there was like a thorn in the side of that activity. And I just never really realized that. It seems like such a simple thing, but it was like extracting that thorn by, at that time, that's the neighbor. I mean, I moved out of there and, now I live in a really quiet place, but earplugs, earplugs made that thing that I really loved to do completely, at least enjoyable. Yes, of course, there's always the struggle creatively sometimes, but it was sort of identifying why that one little part of it was sapping my energy. So it's just going to be interesting to see. And I want you to have that experience where it is more nuanced. Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes you're like, yes, go, go, go. But often, exactly what you said, there's going to be other stuff inside of that experience. And so to kind of be looking at it in that way of like, well, what did I like? And what was causing me the anxiety? Or what was kind of, feeling like the pressure, So that's a really great point. Anybody else have questions about this or comments? I welcome them. Okay, we're gonna move on. I'm gonna show you I'm gonna flip through some of these. There's a lot to this, but in the interest of time, I need you to see this. So this will be what the worksheet essentially looks like. It has a slightly different format now, but what you're going to do is you're going to take one day. If you want to do this over the course of more than one day, I highly recommend it. But really all we're asking is just take one and record everything you do. And definitely someone asked about, does in life as well? Yes. Personal and professional, just record your day from the minute you get up until the minute you go to bed. I really encourage times and very specific activities. This is somebody else's example. 8:30 a.m., surfing Pinterest when she woke up. Score it on the scale. Give it a number. That's important. And then the notes will be which themes were engaged or disengaged. So what was contributing to you feeling the energy? What was detracting from the energy? And try to identify what themes might be at play. So if you have questions about that, reach out to me, but that's what we're looking at. I just want you to take this worksheet and, for that one day span of time, try to, okay, from 8:30 to 9, I was, eating breakfast, or I was commuting to work. From 9 to 10, I was catching up on emails. Just try to break it down into really small things, because you're going to start to see some interesting internal reactions to those external activities. Any questions on that?
So are we only pulling from the top 5, or are we looking at other strengths too?
They said you're recording the whole day. Did you say what you write on the side?
The line it with what?
Yeah, that person rated running errands the same with having been on Blake.
Yes, that person is a very unique person.
Or Blake.
So just from our top 5, or should we be looking at other strengths too?
Well, there are no real rules to this, so if you feel inspired to be creative with these worksheets, I highly recommend that. I don't want them to feel limiting. I personally enjoy when someone brings back the worksheet and it's like a very different take on it. So there's no wrong answer. If you want to delve in and kind of work with more, or even bring in other stuff, I'm happy about that. But for the sake of simplicity, if you want to just look at your 5 themes. So like that example I gave, my intellection was both engaged because I was working on writing and I was trying to do some kind of complex research. And intellection usually does require time alone and concentration. They usually get recharged by that, which is definitely the case for me. But the thing that was getting interrupted was also the intellection, because the noise was interrupting the concentration. So I couldn't actually kind of utilize that theme in the best way possible, because there was this other thing kind of bumping up against it. Remove that thing that's bumping up against it, and then I can see why. So that's how I want you to kind of think of, how do these top 5 themes contribute to that activity? If you're working with a client and you're having an onboarding meeting and it's going really well, try to look at your top 5 and see, well, what did you enjoy about that? Or if it's not going well, what's working? What was, if you have responsibility, were you feeling a pressure building with guilt, things like that. You can look to the theme anatomy as a resource when you do this. So if you want to kind of just read through those first, that can be helpful. Yes.
Where can we go? Is it in what you're sending us, or can we access? Can we go back and review the details under each of our strengths for descriptions? Where do we do that?
So we're going to send, Allie, I'm going to send you an email right after we're done with some reports, which would give you a little bit more. You can go to Gallup if you want more resources. There's a ton of resources out there, so you can get as involved in this as you want to. But if you log back in to your Gallup, it's like your username and password, and they can help you if you don't remember. Inside of your report, there's a bunch of specialized reports. There's a copy of the book, StrengthsFinder 2.0, where you can read a more in-depth description. So there are some more resources in addition to what I'm going to send out.
Okay, thanks.
So we are coming right up against our hour time. It always goes too fast. We have always so much more we want to say. But next time you'll be working with, you'll have a set of videos to watch before, and then we'll meet. So you'll have a little content before for the discussion. But we have a few more minutes, and I want to give Adam a chance to say something. I want to give you a chance to ask me any questions if you have them.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm good with leaving it there. I just want to say real quick, I probably won't be on most of the calls, mostly be Belinda. I just wanted to come and say hello and see everybody again. And yeah, I'm really excited for this journey you guys are on and looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Like, how are you proposing that we ask all those things? Like, is this like at the end of the day, I'm going to go through and write down all these things? Because I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to write that down as I go.
I understand. I actually had to do mine as I went. I just sort of carried it around because I'm not great with like, I mean, I can summarize, and summarizing is okay. But I would just caution, if you're going to summarize, be specific. So don't just say like went to work. So that's not going to be helpful for you, because inside of that work day was a ton of stuff. Try to be as specific as possible. So if you're not, if you just sit down and want to fill it out, I would also try to do it as close to that time as possible, because the more time that passes, the more interpretation can get a little murky. And do it together. If you find, I will tell you, this group has a lot of relationship building themes, and we are going to talk about what that means. Any theme can be used to build relationships. Highly want to stress that. I have all 5 in the strategic thinking, and I have relationships, and I love people, but we do it differently. And so one of the little clues about relationship building themes is you tend to do things or get more energy when you're doing things with each other. So it's not such a bad idea to like pair up with somebody and be like, oh, what'd you put on your worksheet? Or do you want to share? Or, hey, let's fill this out together. Sometimes you can supercharge things that might not initially feel like anything you want to do. But if you do them with somebody, you enjoy them more. So that is one way you might be able to kind of hack into the potential of enjoying this activity more if you don't feel like you're naturally going to.
I mean, it's not that I don't want to, it's just a time issue. Like thinking about my morning alone is like, there was no time. I mean, I was literally going from dropping kids off, making breakfast, getting dogs out. You know what I mean? Like, there's 0 times in there to
Let me sit and reflect upon this.
I was about to miss the bus.
Yeah, no, I don't want anyone to miss the bus. I don't want you to be late for work.
That's the reality of it. But
are we going to share with each other, or is it just for you, or is it just for ourselves?
It's going to be a little bit of both. So you are going to do this mainly for yourself, but then we are going to talk about this next time. So we're going to interpret kind of the why we did it, the application of it. I'm pretty big on application. I don't really I actually personally hate activities that don't have any meaning. So like in workshops, if somebody gives me something that I'm like, I don't see the purpose of this, I get very resistant. So I sympathize with that. So what we'll do is we'll talk about it together next time, which will be next week. But I would highly encourage you to start just kind of sharing with each other, because it will, you're going to see some insights about the way people work. Okay, so that workday portion is important.
And we're doing the worksheet for just one day, right?
Yeah, just one day is all we really want. And you can summarize, like I said, you don't have to do it in the moment.
Holy crap, teamwork.
Just one day.
And this. Plus, like, it just stresses me out to think about, like all that I do in the morning and the evening at my home. Like, I can get through it if it's like going task by task. But if I sit down and like think about how I actually don't get to bed till 11 because I'm doing stuff. Like, I'd rather just not know that. Like, I just don't do it.
Do it in a way that feels doable, is what I'll say.
Well, the reason I asked if, I'm trusting whatever you think is best, but the reason why I asked if we were going to share that with each other is I just think that might be helpful to know too. Like, if there's ever like, oh, like, why didn't Nicole call me back right then? Like, it's in the middle of the day, but then it's like, well, I always pick up my dinner breaks. Like, I always pick up my kids from school on Wednesdays at 3. And so I'm actively walking with them between 3:30 and 3:40, and then I got to get a list of the dates. I'm like, I just think that some of it might be a little eye-opening for others to know what's going on in a good day.
Yeah.
We only see each other for this little window, and I'll have like flies outside of.
Yeah, that's true. Cause like I don't get here till 9, but like I get up at 6 a.m. and like it's packed all the way until.
And I don't mean that to be like a competition or anything. Or like it's not like I'm not giving you or something like that, but like just even like I don't answer emails between these times because I'm doing this, and like this is really important to me because I'm using this strength right now or whatever that is. It's just kind of like why you operate the way.
I think that's so important. That is one of the reasons I want you to try to share with each other, because the understanding that you will gain personally and sharing just that simple thing, like, well, here's what I'm doing during this time, and that's, you know, that's what I was doing, and that's why I'm not doing something else, will foster just more communication, more understanding. And it seems so simple and so obvious, but we have these internal experiences. There aren't a lot of things that make us need to share those, so we don't think to share them. But this is something that's bringing something that's just bubbling under the surface, life, you know, we're doing our thing, and we're bringing it to the forefront, articulating it, kind of, you know, bringing it into that conscious place where we can just direct it more specifically or communicate more specifically. And I think both of those things are absolutely crucial. And they're you know, they take time, and they're a little bit nebulous, but just that simple thing of being like, hey, this is what I'm doing from, you know, look at when I recorded from 3 to 4 on my Wednesday, this is what I was doing, this is what I was doing, and this is, you know, communicating it like, this is why I wasn't doing this other thing. You know, that's simple but important. So.
And I don't think you have to be like in track time, like I did this for Turner and this, but that was like surfing Pinterest.
Yeah, but yours could be like, you know, I was researching for clients, or I was at a client meeting, or I mean,
well, the day I came in with the already, it has to be, but like like I said, like the evening, the morning. Actually, I should do this when I'm in the show.
I honestly think morning routines are pretty critical to do this. I will say this because they're busy, and we often fall into patterns that we don't realize. And part of maybe that pattern, we actually had somebody the other day talk about how there were certain parts of the morning where getting her kids off were working really well, and certain parts that were not, and creating this like friction point. And she never really stopped to say like, this is the friction point. But now she's applying her themes to kind of smooth that part of the morning over. And I think mornings are critical because they're when we're just, you know, or on the go, or getting somewhere, patterns are flying. So it can be useful to just take a minute. She was like, I never would have realized, I can't quite remember, it was something to do with the transition from the house out the door. And she's like, just that little thing. So now I'm going to like rearrange that moment. She has strategic, and it's smoother, which means less friction for the family. So just, I do think mornings are important, and I don't think they have to be done in the moment. I support that. I understand what you're saying. But I want to respect your time, and we're a little over our hour time. I know, you know, you have work to get back to, so I do want to make sure to let you go if you need to.
Probably need to wrap up. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Call Adam. We are here to talk. We're here to answer questions. So thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.